Hello, I'm Brigantia Blackbird of the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Monday, June 17th, 2024. It is the day of the moon. We are in the waxing gibbous phase of that moon. We are in the Celtic tree month of Oak, the Gemini season, Deer season, and Pluto retrograde. Now for the specifics. The sun is in Gemini, mutable air, representing communication. The moon is second quarter Scorpio, fixed water, representing self-confidence. And then Mercury is in Cancer. It has moved. It is in cardinal water, and that is kind of a hominess. So, and Mercury has to do with communication and travel. So it might sense that might more so represent a more relaxed form of communication, a form of communication that is done with the understanding of mutual goodwill, affection, and family feeling. But also when it comes to travel, with Mercury being in Cancer, that it indicates staying a bit closer to home or visiting places that have that more relaxed, home-like atmosphere, places where you're more comfortable. Then in Venus is also in Cancer, which represents cardinal water. And after having to fight off the influence of Venus in Gemini, that represented the spendthrift, Cancer Venus is all about frugality. So if we were having to fight off the urge perhaps to overspend on our loved ones or not be paying as close of attention to the finances as we should, we're no longer feeling that pressure. Venus is in Cancer, and so it's going to be a little bit easier to be budget conscious without being overly resentful of it. Then Mars is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing purpose. Jupiter is in Gemini, mutable air, representing questing. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable water, representing nostalgia. Uranus is in Taurus, fixed earth, representing renovation. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing imagination. And Pluto is retrograding in Aquarius, fixed air, meaning that we need to examine intentions and remember the mantra of reflect, heal, and evolve. So the waxing gibbous, as we've been reminded for several days, that is the time to cultivate intentions. And for the Scorpio moon, we now have our dues of focus, research, and be trustworthy. Some of the don'ts are making new acquaintances. You're not going to have the bandwidth for that right now. Going to family gatherings. It kind of helps because this is on Monday, and generally we aren't having large gatherings with the relatives on Mondays. That's usually a weekend thing. So dodged a bit of a bullet there. And another don't is psychoanalysis, either being subjected to it or imposing that on someone else. Yeah, just don't. That could take you down the rabbit hole in a way that you don't really want or need. So the Scorpio moon, it is seeing a shift from being very group or being very people oriented to being much more contemplative and inclined towards individual action. So the best thing to do probably is to put this energy towards investigation, the testing of theories, and depending upon who you are and what you're doing in your life, this could have a myriad of applications. But essentially, anywhere where you're really needing to buckle down and push through obstacles and get something done and understand all the various nuances and find out what's what, that's where you really want to be drawing upon this Scorpio moon energy and really directing your efforts in that direction. Now, the tarot of today is the Three of Mirrors, and it represents compassion. And if we look at the card itself, we see the mirrors in the background. We see this huge lion. We see this little baby lamb, and they're just resting quietly in the field, and everything's hunky-dory. So it's talking about that level of restraint. Not every situation is going to call for hard-nosed aggression, which is probably a news flash for some people out there, because you go on social media, you listen to the news, you see what's going on, and people are in this very adversarial state. And that's not always what a situation needs. Sometimes that just makes things worse. So if we see an opportunity to show compassion and there is actually room for it and it's justified, we should probably try to lean in that direction. And also seeing ourselves as someone who's a protector rather than a devourer. Like this illustration again, the lion is protecting the little lamb. Ordinarily the lamb would be a food source, but on this occasion, the lion is seeing this lamb as its protector. So, especially if we have a more aggressive temperament, as some of us do. I'm a Leo. That's a fire sign. My other fire signs out there, especially Aries, they know exactly what I'm talking about. Our general mode is a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to do this with gusto, and heaven help you if you stand in the way. this is an opportunity to rein that in, or at least to redirect that and see, what is it that I'm protecting. It's easier to charge ahead and bulldoze through things, but what am I actually looking after? There's a slight redirection of energies that would probably be appropriate today. Now, today's Celtic Triad reads: there are those who are never profitable, they who marry by the counsel of their flesh, they who feast by the counsel of their craving, and they who fight by the counsel of their rage. So, first things first, the counsel of the flesh, that would be lust, an undue focus upon external appearance, looking at beauty or handsomeness without regard to character or conduct. Now, all beauty fades, but character can actually last a lifetime. And people who do choose their marriage mates based upon shared values, commonalities in character and conduct, and not just how beautiful or how handsome they think someone is, those relationships tend to stand the test of time. At least they have a much better chance of doing so, because it isn't just about the external. And the thing about the external is that it isn't just the gradual progression of time that robs everyone of their beauty. But suppose someone was in a car accident, or they were disfigured, or they had a terrible illness and it left them scarred, and or something else happened, and suddenly all that beauty, all of that handsomeness just no longer exists. You know, if your whole attraction to your mate was based just upon that, then I mean, don't be surprised when the relationship collapses, especially if something adverse and extreme like that took place. It's because you never actually loved the person. You only loved their external appearance and what you were projecting onto that appearance. It's very dehumanizing to take that kind of approach. And honestly, the people who go that route, they deserve their heartbreak. They deserve their broken marriages. They deserve that kind of chaos in their private life, because they are neglecting what matters more. Then counsel of their cravings. So this would be gluttony, overindulgence in any kind of food or drink without any regard to health. I don't think, people have to always be in the peak of physical condition, because you essentially have to make it that your life. But I think all people can work towards being in reasonable, healthy, sustainable physical condition. That is something that is much more so within the reach, even if we're having to make fairly significant lifestyle alterations. That's something that is reasonable and sustainable. But those who don't care, those who are using their eating or their drinking habits, because this could also refer to overindulgence in alcohol or other kinds of substances. People who are doing that, that is self-destruction. That is reaching out to destroy yourself. And of course, that isn't going to benefit a person in the long run. Of course, you're probably going to have health complications. Of course, you could be a lot more vulnerable to illness or injury or even ultimately death. It's because you are not sowing the seeds for health. You're not taking care of yourself. And then finally, we have the counsel of their rage. So emotional hot-headedness, no regard to strategy or goals that could be reasonably accomplished. It's just lashing out because you felt a surge of emotion. That doesn't end well, especially if you're trying to fight a more long-term battle, or a battle that can't be solved, with fists or weapons of any kind. You have to take the long view. You have to structure how you handle that conflict in a way to where you are actually pressing forward your objection. And so often just lashing out, that doesn't do anything. People might feel relieved for 5 minutes, but ultimately it doesn't help them. And recently, I saw this clip that was making the rounds on social media of women who are holding rage rituals in the forest. They would go out there, beat the ground or rocks with sticks, and they'd scream and cry and everything else. And it was being advertised as, this is a way to healthily release your emotion and channel all that rage and get it out of your system. And I'm thinking, I'm a witch and I know better. When people are working themselves up into that state, they are not getting it out of their system. They are not coming to an end of that energy. They are building up a charge. We do a very similar process in rituals. When we're singing or dancing or doing anything else that is building up energy, is because we're trying to build it up to a pinnacle so that it can be released for spell work. But I mean, these women, they were building up that rage, and they were just building and building and building. And now they've just left this horrible stain of energy in the forest itself that the forest is going to have to absorb, or some poor person might end up walking through on that trail and taking in a lot of junk that wasn't their problem, wasn't for them to have to take in or deal with. And also, it's just there's something I think that's very dangerous about the release of rage without object, and and this having a sustained anger all the time. That does break you down physically. It does break you down emotionally. There's been lots of discussions about that, but it also breaks people down spiritually, because if you are in that kind of state of blindness, you can't see anything else. You can't prioritize. You can't assign value anything. You can't discern. You can't reason. You cannot do anything that would actually be helpful to your situation. The way to deal with some of our stronger emotions that are threatening to overwhelm us, it's not to continue building up that charge. It's siphoning away that energy. And the way you do that is by doing something constructive. So today's magical intention is challenges. The color for this is silver. The plant is the mandrake. The animal is the grouse. And the crystal is lodestone, also called magnetite. So on challenges, do they overwhelm you, or do you rise up to conquer them? What is your relationship with challenge? And are you struggling with challenges perhaps because your own energetic batteries are a bit low? That's something to think about, and because there's going to be a lot more challenges coming, and I don't say that to exhaust anyone, rather to encourage people to, fill up your tank, adjust your strategies, put yourself in a position to where you're being set up for success rather than just being worn down by it all. Now, for today's pagan practice, it's Monday, so that's the day where we honor lunar deities. Also, work on your sacral chakra, learn something new about your moon sign, and then meditate on the energy shift that you are hoping to experience post solstice, because the solstice is building up. It's building, building, building. You can probably feel it every single day as we get closer and closer to the solstice itself. So once we get to that solstice and you do your rituals and you're releasing that energy and you're tapping into this universal energy, what do you hope to happen after that? Having a clear picture of the after, that might help you make any fine-tune adjustments to your rituals before the day. And then if you're feeling in the need for a little bit of spiritual protection, or you're needing to charge your batteries a little bit, carry a piece of fluorite today. It's a really pretty crystal that's kind of green and blue and purpley and white and different variations. Is super pretty. But if you don't have fluorite, a plain quartz crystal will do you just as well. That's why I encourage people, especially in these economically hard times, if you can only get yourself one crystal to work with, get a clear quartz. It is the universal stone for everything. You can program it for whatever your needs are. Now, if you only have one, of course, cleanse, deprogram frequently, recharge it, let it rest, all these other things. But you can go a long way with just having one kind of crystal. Now, lastly for today, the journal prompt. Now that we are in the longest of the summer days, do you have a greater appreciation for the night hours and that darkness, or are you reveling in this light? Where's your mindset? And another thing is is this your usual pattern, or do things feel different for you this year? And if they do feel different, maybe explore a little bit of why in your journal. That might unearth some things that you weren't consciously aware of. So that does it for today. Come back tomorrow for the next edition of the daily forecast. And in the meantime, let me know what you thought about this one, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.